Today we're looking at traveling the Oregon Trail. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Please don't forget to subscribe and take a look at the questions down in the description. Also, don't forget to check out dailybellringer.com for resources that go with many of the Bellringer videos. The Oregon Trail was the overland route west traveled by thousands of Americans throughout the mid-1800s until the 1870s, when trains began to carry passengers to the west. It's estimated that over 350,000 people made the journey, with an estimated 1 in 10 settlers dying on the journey. To learn more about how the trail was established, check out my other video on the Oregon Trail's history. But today I am here on location at a few of the stops along the trail. Behind me you can see Chimney Rock in western Nebraska, which was one of several markers that travelers on the trail looked for to ensure they were on the right path leading from Independence, Missouri to Oregon City, Oregon. Most travelers on the trail departed heading west on the 4 to 6 month journey in April or May to ensure that they made it past the Rocky Mountains before the winter weather set in. To start out the journey, travelers followed the old Santa Fe Trail for about 40 miles, then began following the Oregon Trail that went off to the northwest, following closely the Little Blue River that would then lead them to the Platte River in Nebraska they would follow west for hundreds of miles. One of the first major stops was here at Fort Kearny in south central Nebraska. This was one of many forts established to protect travelers and to help them resupply on their journey. You could almost think of it as a modern day gas station. After traveling for miles and miles across the seemingly endless flat land, the Platte River split and immigrants would cross the South Platte River and begin heading northwest. The seemingly endless open prairies began to give way to rugged hills and rocky formations. One of the first major buttes, which is an isolated hill or rock formation with steep sides, was Courthouse and Jailhouse rocks. Many travelers said the larger rock resembled a courthouse, and so it only made sense that the smaller rock next to it would be called a jailhouse. From there, it was a relatively short distance to the next major marker behind me, Chimney Rock. Chimney Rock rises 325 feet into the air, and pioneers on the trail said they could see it from almost 30 miles away. Next, travelers would pass under the high bluffs here at Scotts Bluff as they continued their journey west. Following the North Platte River, the trail crossed over into present-day Wyoming, as the next stop would be Fort Laramie. Like many forts along the trail, it was originally established as a fur trading post, but was purchased by the U.S. government in 1849 to be used as a location to resupply travelers on the Oregon Trail. Soon after Fort Laramie, the trail stopped following the North Platte River and headed west towards Independence Rock. This huge rock was called Independence Rock because it was said you needed to reach it before July 4th if you were going to make it to Oregon City before the winter set in. Large mountains could now be seen in the distance as the trail began to approach the Rocky Mountains. The next major landmark the immigrants looked for was the South Pass through the Rocky Mountains. This 30-mile wide, mostly flat thoroughfare became the primary pass for Oregon Trail travelers to get through the mountains. Near the pass, many of the Mormon settlers would head south towards the Great Salt Lake in Utah. But for the most part, most pioneers continued heading west. Making their way through the pass, travelers had to make a choice. Either they would take the Sublette Cutoff, which would cut off 70 miles off the entire trip, but went through a very rugged desert region, or take a longer southern route that would go past Fort Bridger. Most opted for the safer route past Fort Bridger. From there, the next marker settlers looked for was Soda Springs in present-day Idaho, where underground geothermal activity heated the water and actually carbonated the water, so if you drank it, it was like drinking a soda pop. Continuing west, Fort Hall was another fur trading post converted into a fort for settlers to resupply at. Following that, they would begin to follow the Snake River, and they would pass Fort Boise and then come to the junction of the Snake River and Columbia River, where they began to follow the Columbia River west. Before long, the Blue Mountains of western Oregon came into view. The mountains were not particularly difficult to get through, but the next part was trying to get past the Dulles Rapids on the Columbia River. Travelers could either attempt to float down the river through the huge boulders or take a longer toll road called the Barlow Road around the rapids, but even the road was challenging and steep. But if they made it past, it was less than 100 miles to Oregon City, Oregon, their final destination. Most settlers that made it arrived with little to nothing left, as far as supplies or money, but soon moved up and down the West Coast, establishing themselves and creating thriving communities. So with that, hopefully you learned something, and thanks for watching.